first meet today's specialist. He is the chairman of the American Conservative Union, the former political director to George W. Bush, and the founder of Cove Strategies, a legislative communications and political consulting firm. So obviously he specializes in all things politics. Matt Schlapp is here. He's a nationally recognized teacher who said he wanted a much bigger classroom. So he naturally became a radio talk show host on Philadelphia's Talk Radio 1210 WPHT. He's also been named one of America's top 100 in Talkers magazine, and he specializes in broadcasting and politics. Dom Giordano is here. Thank you both for being back with us. And we said before the show, you guys were together the last time, too.
We switched places, but that's good, yes.
Yeah, we like to keep the rotation fresh around
Exactly.
here. Dom, I'll start with you on this. I think Eric Bolling's exactly right. For a very long time, both Democrat and Republican administrations have really failed to address the immigration issue. We have Donald Trump putting forward, for whatever you think of the bill, the first real kind of powerful change in immigration legislation in 50 years. Yet it becomes a wedge issue now that you insert, the way Stephen is setting this up here in front of the cameras, this issue now around race and gender and culture, rather, and it becomes a wedge issue when this should have been kind of an easy, at least introduction around this issue.
It won't be easy because Democrats will be against it, and the Statue of Liberty was argued about for 20 times today. My full name is Dominic Joseph Giordano, and if you told me I'd be sitting here with Ebony K. Williams and talking about legal immigration and saying I'm on the side to say, yes, cut the numbers, bring in high-skilled people, that's exactly right, I would never believe it. But I've so had it, and so have my listeners, with what's going on with illegal immigration and also things like diversity lotteries and things of that nature. And the blue-collar worker in America is under fire. And this is something relatively easy that Trump can take apart versus the battle over illegal immigration.
Okay. Matt, let me ask you this. Many of us thought that the next big policy thing was going to be tax reform.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit. Yet here we are with, again, what's looking like at least starting to be a bit of a wedge divisive issue around what legal immigration looks like.
Yeah, I want to first jump on what Eric was talking about, which is this is the thing that I'm really excited about with the new chief of staff, a new comms leadership coming in, which is when they announce these things, you got to work your outside allies. You got to have groups ready to go. They did a great job with the announcement and with sending talking points after the fact, but they didn't build support for this before the fact. That's true on the Hill, and that's true with the people who want to be with them. So I think that's just a learning thing they have to go through. From a comms perspective, do we want to talk taxes? Or do we want to talk immigration? Or do we want to talk some of the other subjects that came out that are going to be on this great hour? And what I would say to him from a comms standpoint, my wife certainly agrees with me, is if it's taxes, let's stay on taxes and let's sell it. And some of these other really passionate issues, they need to wait in line. We need to wait in the queue. We've got to take care of them. But you've got to space these things out for the American people. When you throw everything on top of on itself, it's harder for it to get passed.
And Eric, I'm scratching my head here because we saw what happened with the Obamacare repeal and replace efforts. Obviously, failure there. We think the tax reform issue be a place of buy-in, place where the Trump administration gets some legislative points on the board. Yet it almost seems like the administration, Eric, is more concerned with fulfilling campaign promises, which I'm not mad at. I get that. When you run on something as strong and powerful as immigration, you want to deliver. But what about the timing?
Well, look, I think they thought this was, and I do think this is going to be a win for them. People have been waiting, conservatives have been waiting for the immigration reform policy out of the Trump administration. They've been waiting for the wall or some appropriations to start the wall. I mean, this is what he promised to do. I agree with Matt, though. Including the stock market at 22,000, everyone is waiting for the discussion about tax reform. I can't imagine that's not going to fly through. I know there's going to be the fiscal hawks who are going to say, how are you going to pay for it? And there's going to be some fighting going back and forth. But they're going to get that, and it's going to be a big, massive, beautiful tax package.
No,
I don't know what they're waiting for.
Bowling. That was really nice.
Matt, can I just ask you, maybe the timing being that they don't want to roll it out before the August recess? Was that
well,
what
I don't
this
think
could
they,
be?
yeah, I don't think, look, I'm okay with them talking about immigration. I would have thought it would have been wiser to do some principles and have some events around the country to talk about what a bill would look like. But I also understand that these two senators, Cotton and Perdue, have been great allies of President Trump, and they're ready to get going. I
don't know if Cotton has been
he's been there. He's been there.
This bill is not. This is not going to become law.
That's right.
Okay. This is not going to. Most Democrats have a problem with it. A large number of Republicans have a problem with it, and it's. I really resent the fact also that it became this race-based thing because it's an economic issue. When you're cutting the number of green cards in half, We need workers in this country, and when you add workers, the economy gets better. Yes, for high-skilled jobs, but also for the low-skilled jobs. Businesses need those workers also.
But
and if you talk about,
that's not helpful, though, to people that are at those low rungs also. They're under pressure from these people you bring in.
There are 5.7 million job openings in this country right now. We should not be cutting the amount of workers, potential workers, especially when we have baby boomers.
But what about wages, though? What about the wages, though, of these people? That's a constant issue. They haven't gotten a raise in how long? Because they can be undercut by people that are here illegally, or even people that are coming in legal and will work for a whole. Should the American worker have to compete with these people?
Because
I say no.
Look, the answer to your question is you're exactly right. We should have the immigration policies that give us the workers we need to grow our economy. What's one of our biggest problems in this country is we have people that want jobs, but we have jobs that can't be filled because the skills gap is huge. And if we're going to talk immigration policy, we also have, in this bill, it should also address the fact that we've got to get the American worker to a place where they can fill those jobs.
So, Matt, that's absolutely a critical part of the economy, this skills gap, and I'm a big proponent of vocational and tech training to get us there. But the other part,
apprenticeships we're talking about.
Absolutely. Right. But the other part, right, Dom, to your point, there are jobs, let's be honest, that no American wants to do in this country. Nobody's picking oranges in Florida. Nobody's doing that for any amount of money. So let's just be candid about that part of the economy.
They will do it. They have to pay the marketplace. I mean, there are some jobs, there may be a limited number of it, I agree, but people cannot continue to undercut what the wage should be. The wage is a wage. We're a market economy.
So here, let me put the other hat on here, Dom. Then what happens is you're going to drive up the wages. That will. This bill will actually, if it became law, would actually drive up the American wage. But then it'll turn around and drive up prices for the things that we're producing.
Right, and I think if you say that to Trump voters, Trump voters would support that. They want Americans to be doing this, and they want wages to go up.
But they're going to pay more, too?
You travel around Southern California, and there is not one, I mean, not being literal, but there's very few Americans who are bringing the vast majority of the produce from the fields to the marketplace, and that's because they just don't want those jobs.
And then
you're 100% right.
And then those avocados and oranges and all those things go up.
But this theory, guys, this theory is now in the IT field. Now we're hearing the same thing with the visa program and these sorts of things. It's hitting IT workers where they're being undercut.
But that's why I'm making a very important, to your point, Don, distinction between this skills gap issue that Matt's articulating and these kind of low skilled, putting it mildly.
Let's go back to it, which is we have to have an immigration policy that isn't race-based, right? We have to have not that this is, but we have to have an immigration policy that recognizes we want people that want to be Americans eventually, or they want to be a part of this great experience of this American experience.
Opportunity.
And we need to make sure that we are able to have the economic growth that we need. We have serious issues as a country. What I don't like is an indiscriminate number that says, it's this number.
What does this do? And let's say they were to get this through. What does this do to illegal immigration? Doesn't this force push an impetus on people to come over illegally because they can't get over here legally?
Here's the beautiful story about the presidential campaign we just had. If you actually look at the activity on the border, and I think General Kelly deserves a lot of credit.
A lot of forward, though.
I get it. But I think the Trump administration is actually making that risk that you take to come here illegally not so worth it for people. And I think even with a legislation that were to pass something like this, I actually think we've got real good control on changing the psychological advantages people saw to coming in illegal. I think it's been a fantastic change.
Some people are dealing with things in certain countries where they don't really care, and they may try to come here anyway. And there has been less of that with a lot of the rhetoric that President Trump has used. But cutting green cards in half, that is going to, I would predict, cause illegal immigration to go up. And economists pretty well agree that it's going to have a bad impact on our economy because we need workers. We shouldn't be turning people away if they have exactly what we need. It makes no sense.
Right, much more to come. Coming up next, though,
let's make rhinos an endangered political species. I got to go to Matt Schlapp on that because could the party be better without the rhino-type establishment Republican senators?
Look, I want to have a national party, which means that we're going to have some ideological differences. I think you specifically are saying these senators that failed to get behind the conservative platform that Trump is putting out there. It's undeniably a conservative platform, even if you have disagreements here or there. It's undeniable that if Hillary Clinton had won, she would have picked that Supreme Court opening. that alone can change a generation for America. And so I would say to these guys, Jeff Flake started out with a really strong American Conservative Union congressional rating when he was in the House. He moved to the Senate. It started to lower. Now he's in the 70s. He is really off his game. And really, I think it's inappropriate for him to say that he speaks for conservatives with this new book. Brent Bozell came out, the son of the person who helped write the first Conscience of a Conservative for Barry Goldwater. I think he's really stepped in at this time.
Yeah, he stepped in. Dom, what do your listeners think when they hear Senator Jeff Flake, writing an anti-Trump book with some really nasty things to say about the president?
They think this guy bills himself as a conservative. There might be fraud with this book. It ought to be seized. They know of him, and that's exactly, to Matt's point, what they think of this guy. The second thing they think is, here's another one of these guys who went the wrong way on health care, et cetera, attacking Trump. The Democrats are in lockstep. What is it that Trump has done that's so far outside what a conservative would do? His mannerisms and all that, put that aside. The policy has been down the line conservative.
Dom, the policy cat. Now let's talk the politics. Flake's up next year. Is this a good idea to be writing this book in your year leading up to your election?
Well, I suppose we'll have to wait and see how that goes. I think that there are some people who came out against President Trump when he was candidate Trump, and they spent a lot of political capital on that. And now they're in a place where they're going to have to kind of keep riding that. I don't think that every time a politician disagrees with President Trump, however, that it's because of that or that they're betraying conservative principles. I think there's a lot of betrayal of conservative principles going on in the GOP right now, especially, I mean, we could not have seen that any more clearly when it comes to health care and the health care bill that they released that was an insurance bailout plan. But I think a lot of that has to do with them being in bed with special interests. It's not always about a vendetta against President Trump.
47% Trump won the GOP primary in Arizona. I'm not sure that's a good political idea to write an anti-Trump book going into your election.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with actually you and Kat. I think Kat's exactly right. There's plenty of abandoning of conservative principles to go around within the GOP. But, Eric, obviously politically risky to say the least. I'm not really sure what the long game is for Senator Flake on this because Trump's very popular. The other senator there, of course, John McCain, they really just seem to be running away from the president consistently. I don't really know how that's going to play with the base there.
Let me tell you, Mike Lee had a lot of criticisms of Donald Trump throughout the election process. He came out recently and said at the Young Americans Foundation conference and said, hey, if this is what Donald Trump is going to do, what we've seen over the last 6 months, bring it on. He's loving the conservative aspect to this agenda. So I think if you look at the policy, it's hard to make a conservative case against it.
And so what? But why is there such pushback by this establishment Republican?
It's what Dom said. It's not dismissive. I was going to say that it's not policy. I think it is a mannerism.
It's Trump.
I think
It's a personal, moral objection to aspects of Trump. And I care more about the policy and what America needs to get back on track.
Is Arizona? Let me ask you guys very quickly around the table. Is Arizona still a red state?
I think it's a red state. Maybe, yeah, I think it's a red state.
Red to purple.
Red to
it's one of these states where a lot of new folks are moving down there.
But also, conservative and Trump supporter are not the same thing anymore.
Yeah, no. If you're not going to get behind Donald Trump, I think you risk losing a Republican seat on the Senate.
Dean Heller, I don't think will come back, and I think Jeff Flake is putting himself in a very vulnerable position.
Quick thought.
Maybe, I mean, not all conservatives support Trump.
I do think Flake.
Eric, I would suspect this is something that looks very good for his base. I saw this and I wondered if it was a political issue because of that Supreme Court decision already happening.
I think Ebony hit on what conservatives are mostly concerned about, that whether they agree on whether or not affirmative action is a quota system or not. As long as it's applied properly, you can't really argue with it too much. It's when it becomes over affirmative action, when you venture into strictly a race that's the reason someone gets into a program.
I do appreciate your overview on the legal standpoint, but I do think we have to ask ourselves a question. We have a thing at the ACU called the Family Prosperity Index, and if you look at white rural America, it is a depressing story that's unfolding with the opioid epidemic, with suicides, with people don't feel like they have an economic future because they can't get the jobs that they need. It is a sad state of affairs, what's happening across this country. All of these programs, I get it, in the wake of Jim Crow, the need to make sure people... But at what point do these stop so that everybody competes?
So right now that's important, what you're saying, and that's one of those many factors. I don't know if you guys have ever seen what the factor list looks like for most institutions. It's about 20 to 25 criteria. Socioeconomic, to your point, one of them. First-time generation, I myself, first-time college graduate, no matter of race. Those students have to be considered.
But you have to understand, when you help one person and give them a leg up for one of these slots,
so
you are knocking somebody else back. It's a fact.
No, it's not a because that would be an improper application. What it's got to be.
I think the Justice Department suspects they are improper. I believe they're improper.
Based
I don't
on
think
what,
you can
Dom?
split
Based
hairs.
on what?
Based upon story after story that I've done.
Story?
I don't trust American colleges. Based upon the mentality. Well, I'll give you an example. How about Asian students?
What about it?
Asian students are, per capita, the most brilliant students out there.
They have a cap. Do you know that, Doug?
That's exactly right. They have a cap on Asian students. Yeah. Now, why would you have a cap just because people are of a certain ethnic background if they're the most brilliant people there?
So can I answer it
Do we do that in the NBA? Do we do that anywhere else?
Let me tell you something.
Yes.
I don't like the cap, but you asked why we have it. We have it because, not me, but the U.S. Supreme Court, and you know this as an educator, Dom, has decided that a diverse, in all the ways that that means something, economically, socioeconomically, rural versus urban, racial, gender, you have it. It matters. It helps create a better, sound institution. That's what the court says.
But the legal argument I appreciate. I'm just saying, as a country, we have to look each other in the eye and say, is that the way do we want to compete? I'm okay with these conversations about race and how employment law works and how people are accepted into college. But when you see the backlash on people who aren't the beneficiary because they're not diverse enough of any of these programs, I think we have to say it's time to. It's not just race, but let's let the person with the best scores and the best resume get the slot.
We need more objectivity rather than subjectivity here. It's suspect. We need more objectivity.
That's a part of the criteria, too. You got to put your SAT. Nobody's going to be a black woman, trust me, I know this, with a bad SAT score or a bad GPA and get in the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, or UT,
and by the way,
Michigan,
North Carolina is also not discriminating against anybody. That's absurd.
Right.
And I think part of the point is this has been decided in the Supreme Court.
And we look at it every about 10 to 15 years, Kat, to your point. Matt, when are we going to stop it?
Kat, I think it's a live wire. I actually think it could go back to the court again.
You know, it will go back to the court again.
It will go back over and over. Because of what Sessions will do here.
Visit it and make sure that it's still needed. I think that's very important.
American college is suspect.
What's it?
They're suspects.
Okay. I don't know. What college?
American colleges.
Oh, American colleges.
I think they're suspect in this issue, and Jeff Sessions does too, I think.
We will have to wait and see.
Welcome back to the Fox News Specialists. Our specialists today are Matt Schlapp and Dom Giordano. Let's continue the conversation. Bin Laden is back. Well, at least his son is, and he's seeking to exact revenge. Osama bin Laden's son, Hamza, is campaigning to become the new leader of al-Qaeda and surpass ISIS as the most dangerous global terror group on the planet. Hamza is the only son, of bin Laden's favorite wife. He's believed to be 28 years old. He's described as the crown prince of terror and is also regarded as a poster boy of al-Qaeda, looking to claim his father's place as the head of the organization. I'll bring it around starting with Ebony. This guy says, America, we're coming after you, and he wants revenge for his father's killing. Yeah, well, the last thing we need, Eric, is another war to fight on the terror front. So, of course, not good news. But this is where, I do appreciate President Trump being very consistent, very hard line around this issue of giving the generals the authority they need to figure out the best way to combat this, whether that's through cyber, whether that's through really and keeping all of those options on the table. So whatever we're going to do to be effective in ISIS, hopefully will work here, too. Hey, Matt, how about Saudi Arabia getting involved? Because I think Hamza said he wants to tax it in the kingdom. He wants to go right after the royal family for their assistance. Look, I think presidents often want one type of presidency and something else happens. And what's going to happen with Donald Trump's presidency is going to have little to do with many of the things we've talked about in the first 6 months, even though I think it's been a good 6 months. You look at China. You look at Iran getting a nuclear weapon. You look at North Korea. You look at what's going on with our destruction of ISIS, but the way that war will go in other ways. This is really going to dominate. Some people say that North Korea will have the ability to hit us in 18 months. This is what's going to dominate the Trump presidency, and we all got to be behind him on these big questions. Dominic?
Yeah, I think so. And not discounting this guy and what his wishes are. I've always thought, and the best experts I've had on, maybe you guys too, that ISIS is clearly the biggest threat we face because they're not interested in the grandiose, the 9/11 type of stuff. They just say, go and kill somebody and inspire people out there. So I don't know about this guy's background or his resume as a terrorist.
Well, he was 12 when his father
was
attacked
killed.
9/11.
Exactly.
Right? He exacted the attack on 9/11. And he's now vowed to get revenge on Americans. Kat, I wanted to ask you this because I think you and I might agree on this. Every time you put down a faction of terrorists, they sprout up somewhere else.
Well, first of all, I'd like to say that I'm shocked that Osama bin Laden's son turned out to be such a jerk. You know, can you believe it?
Did you notice he said the one son from his favorite
wife? Yeah, probably one heck of a lady, I'm sure. But I agree with you totally. It's you know, you can take out this group or that group, but it's really the ideology that you have to take out, and that's much, much harder to do. And I don't know that we're capable of completely erasing that. In fact, pretty sure that we're not. And it's been a mess the more and more we've got involved in that region. It's an ideological thing. You can completely wipe out ISIS. That's still not going to wipe out terrorism.
A little different, though, with this guy now saying he wants to attack us.
Yeah, he's got a different.
I don't appreciate that.
Yeah.
I'm very against that.
Yeah.
Camera against the terrorists attacking us.
Yeah, certainly. We don't want like this generational buildup either, right? Where this is just, you know, coming not just from the ideological standpoint, but from a personal standpoint as well, which I think would make the whole thing even that much worse.
Schlapp, I wonder if the liberals are saying we need to get these people jobs so they won't hate us so much.
Yes. Well, by the way, that was in the Obama administration. They actually did say these radicalized folks, if they had economic opportunity, maybe this wouldn't happen. I ran out of the White House on 9/11. Yeah. This is a war we're going to be in until our lives are over, and we're going to have to take the right steps. And I like what President Trump in his cabinet is doing.
That was a big moment. I think it was Harf. It was one of the Obama people arguing, and I think with the Fox person in the news type of thing, to say there are not enough jobs there. That's why they're terrorists.
And let me tell you, I
know
really miss that Obama guy. I really do. It was like so much fun to listen to how they were going to solve the world's
jobs
problems.
programs.
But and don't forget, they also blamed climate change as well at one point.
Yes.
That
It's so hot there that
somehow
they get
or another
radicalized.
Yes, exactly right.
I've been pretty hot and sweaty before, but I've never thought about becoming a terrorist. Again, not bragging about
We got you on the
morality,
record here.
but...
Yes, we'll see what you do in the future.
I knew you were one of the good ones, Tim.
Yeah,
exactly. Well dressed too.
Thank you.
We'll leave it right there. When we come right back, it's time for Celebrity Justice with Ebony K. Williams giving us the latest on Bill Cosby, Kim Kardashian, and Kanye West's newest legal battle. Don't go away.
Time now for Celebrity Justice. So we've got 3 cases involving some big Hollywood stars. We'll start with Bill Cosby. This is an interesting development with his ongoing legal trial. Cosby's lead defense attorney, Brian McMonagle, is asking to withdraw from Cosby's sex assault case. McMonagle didn't give a reason why, but he did say that his client is taking the necessary steps to secure new counsel in time for the planned retrial later this year. Eric Bolling, that is a very important step here. Because if you want to withdraw...
More proof that he's guilty? Do we need any more proof that he's guilty? I would be running, too, if I was his defense team.
Yeah, I will say this would be an opportune time before this new trial comes up to get out. It's really hard. A lot of people don't know to get out of a trial once you put your name on it as an attorney, because they've got to secure that new counsel. Otherwise, that judge will tend to make you stick on this case, which nobody really wants to do.
Right, yeah. I'm not a lawyer, but I do know that if I were and anyone said, do you want to defend Bill Cosby, I'd say no, probably not. Probably not. Don't want to do that.
Well, I'm a law school dropout, so I have a lot to say here. That's exactly right. McMonagle is the best defense attorney in Philadelphia, in the area. I would say most people think in the country. The problem here is you have these dueling spokespeople and other lawyers who are, that's why he's dropping out. That's what it is.
I'd like to think it's because he has a conscience, but maybe he just isn't getting his bills paid. Right?
No, I mean, come on, Matt. I mean, at some point, you can't cherry pick your clients, though, right? Well,
Yes, you can.
If you're a defense lawyer...
No, you don't have to defend Bill Cosby.
So what, you only defend innocent people? Would that be the mantra?
No, I know. You're going to give me the legal bar answer here, but I would not be able to walk into a courtroom and defend Bill Cosby, would you?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I've been a criminal defense lawyer, so I believe in a Sixth Amendment constitutional right for everybody to have it.
And he'll get a lawyer. I'd like him to have a public one.
Yeah.
Still hard to date.
What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that?
Hard to date. What do you do for a living? I defend Bill Cosby.
I've been a public defender. We work hard for our clients. Trust me on that. But we'll move on here to Kim Kardashian. She's facing a whopping $100 million patent infringement suit, my goodness, over the Lumi cell phone case that she endorses. Now, this case features an LED light for perfectly lit selfies. But a man claims that he patented that same idea back in 2013. And we'll get a look here. This is the Lumi case. I have one on my phone. Let's move it up here. Yeah, and the funny thing is I don't even take selfies.
I don't have one.
Oh, and you got 2 phones.
I don't have
no Lumi.
Can you $100 million?
$100 million.
This is why we're doomed as a culture.
Like too much litigation.
Kim Kardashian puts her name on a product and it's worth $100 million.
Yeah, that is true.
Because the product itself isn't worth 100 large.
No, there she is with the. It's crazy. But this guy saying that basically back in 2013, her. I'll go back to you, Dom, on this, almost lawyer, says that he had something that was basically the same exact thing. He had a trademark for it, and here she goes with something brand new. His sales have plummeted.
I know she's reprehensible, but I got to go with Kardashian in this. That's my ruling.
Yeah, you going with Kardashian, Matt?
I'm against Kardashian. I think when you develop on everything, by the way, when you develop your individual intellectual property and you own it, and somebody steals it, and you're willing to put your name on that product, if it's ill-gotten gain, she doesn't deserve the sponsorship of the product. I'm for intellectual property on this one.
I agree with that, Bowling.
I already made my case on it.
Yeah, okay, I feel really bad for her because she's so rich that people are always trying to sue her, especially when she works so hard by doing this.
All
did that
day long.
with one of those.
And do the duck face.
I'm sorry. I don't have I have thin lips. Sorry. I don't have those lips.
And that's why you don't have $100 million.
Sorry about that.
Exactly right. So keeping it in the family, we'll go a little Kimye style here. Kim Kardashian's husband, Kanye West, also facing some legal issues. The rapper filing a suit claiming insurers failed to pay him almost $10 million for his canceled St. Pablo tour last year. So you guys remember when Kanye West was in Trump Tower, right, with Donald Trump? Right. That was right after he was released from the hospital, I think UCLA Medical Center, and that's really the canceled tour that we're talking about. Kim was robbed in Paris. Kanye, some kind of undisclosed illness. He had to go to the hospital, and then the next stop was Trump Tower. But all those, tour dates were canceled.
I don't know how they get by.
So.
I'm worried about him. I think you ought to hire Bill Cosby's former attorney. I mean, I'm really
have him
busy right now. That's right.
Yeah, he's withdrawing off the case, Dom.
Well, yeah, I think if he had insurance, though, all kidding aside, though, that's why they do it, because these guys either get a cold or they're finicky, they get depressed or whatever, and they cancel tours. If you want to insure them, you're taking a big risk.
Or maybe he was just lazy and didn't meet the specifications.
That's
what they're arguing.
There it is.
That's
there
what they're
it is. Right there, Schlapp. You hit it right on the head. Yeah, of course you can have an issue and call on your insurance carrier to pay your problems. However, it better be in that rider, and if it's not, he's out $10 million.
Yeah, and the insurance company, obviously, Eric, must agree with you.
Didn't he say he was stressed and he needed time off?
Yeah, and so that's going to be the argument, right? Does that qualify? Because you're exactly right, E. It's got to be in that language that it qualifies in their policy.
They're out of their mind for insuring him.
I really, really, really feel for this family, and I think that we should all, as taxpayers, be required to subsidize whatever he lost here because they're not doing well financially.
Maybe President Trump will be called to testify. That's what you would do as an attorney, right?
Of course I would. Tell me about the mental state of Mr. West. How was he disoriented? Was he
Steve Harvey could be a character. I think he was there, too.
Yeah,
I actually like this idea,
Well, a lot of people actually said that they felt Kanye was a little out of his mind, not just for some people said that for the Trump meeting, but just in general.
Don't give Bob Mueller any ideas.
A special investigation into Kanye West.
And this insurance possible fraud scheme here. It's unbelievable.
That's even better. How's that? They should turn around and if he did, and it's not in there, turn around and sue him for insurance fraud.
Kanye West.
Jesus.
He's so hip, Bowling. We've got to say goodbye now to our specialist, Matt Schlapp and Dom Giordano. Thank you both so much for joining us today. And up next, it's Wait, What?